Good evening, my local drones. This is Bio Gundam here, and I'm back again for another video. So today, me and my buddy Fvlminatvs, we're going to be talking about the series Macross, or Super Dimension Macross, as it's also called.
Chojiku Yosai Macross.
Yes, Macrossu. The reason, so this is, so if you guys want to know why we covered, like, Otaku no Video, Macross is the reason why we covered Otaku no Video, because a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about in this video, and the other videos we plan, because, we're planning to cover some of the other Macross series as well, so, look forward to that if you're a big Macross fan, but yeah. Like, a lot of the things that we covered in the Otaku no Video vid, we're going to sort of, like, expand upon some of those points in this particular podcast, because it's quite relevant, especially when we're talking about Macross and the themes of Macross. So, so Full, just give us, like, a basic rundown of what Macross is about, and then we'll sort of go into, like, the behind-the-scenes backstory of Macross, then start talking about the show.
What's Macross about? Like, okay, love, music, and love and music against a backdrop of interplanetary war. It's kind of like the short version, the short summary, I guess you could say. Macross is about a pilot, and it's funny because he starts out knowing how to fly planes. If I recall,
yes, he does.
Hikaru Ichijo had his father had run a flying circus, so he knew already how to fly planes. And because of random events and accidents, he ends up getting caught up in an interstellar war, or kind of, interstellar.
As you do, you go to buy your megs, your milk, you get involved in intergalactic war. It happens all the time. Yeah. It happened to me just last week.
Yeah, I know. If you're in an anime, it seems to happen. But and he ends up in a love triangle. And the two women he's in a love triangle with are very, very symbolic in various regards. We'll probably talk more about that. But he ends up in a love triangle with his superior officer, Misa Hayase, and the aspiring pop idol, Lin Minmay. And lots of side characters, and
we
all
have
of
Max,
them are pretty
we have
cool.
Maxwell, Maxwell. He's great.
Maximilian.
Maximilian.
Yeah, we got Maximilian. We got Roy. We got Milia, the captain, Captain Global. You got the Bridge Bunnies. You got Misa's best friend, Claudia.
You've got Minmay's cousin, Xiao.
Oh yeah, Lin Kai-Fun.
Lin Kai-Fun. Yeah. Is she like part Chinese or something? Like Lin Kai-Fun. It sounds like a Chinese name.
Yes. No. She grew up in Yokohama. You know, do you watch this show?
Yes, I did.
Her parents and her cousin's parents both run Chinese restaurants.
Yeah, I know.
In Chinatown. So yeah, they're Chinese. Yeah, Lin Minmay is Chinese in it. Ethnically Chinese.
That's actually very interesting. Now that I think about it, considering.
Well, and if you're watching, it's almost like Star Trek in that you have this very like the crew of the Macross, and a lot of the people in the show are multi-ethnic, multinational. They're from all over the place. For example, like Roy, I'm pretty sure is American. I think Claudia is Haitian. Lin Minmay is Chinese. Hikaru and Misa are Japanese. Captain Global is from Italy, and I don't remember where Max is from.
I think Max is from England or like Europe.
He might be, but yeah, it's got this international, like almost like Star Trek does, like this whole like all of Earth is pulling together. Like we're all like we've settled our international differences. We've put
with
all
one
these
big
things
giant
aside
fuck off war.
Yeah, basically the unification wars, and
minus the Space Marines and the God Emperor,
and so the Earth got unified. A lot of it involved a big nasty war, but now everybody's working together, and there's this kind of like hope for the future and stuff like that, right? It's that's one of the things. It's got this, like Star Trek, it has this positive outlook on where we're going as a human species. It has this idea that we can put all our stuff, like all our problems of nationalism and identity and ethnicity and all that stuff, we can put all our the divisiveness behind us and everybody can like pull together and work as a team, as a planet, and start pushing towards the stars. And that's something I really like about it.
Yeah, and nowadays that'd be such a radical idea as well, which is funny. But anyway,
well, you know.
Yeah, but so so Macross, big. They had the unification wars. They we should actually should we talk about like the backdrop of Macross and how it was created as well? Because it's our boy, the guy who made Escaflowne.
Yeah, Shoji Kawamori. Yeah, Shoji Kawamori originally came up with this idea for 3 different shows, and they'd all be the Super Dimension shows. You'd have Super Dimension Fortress Macross, Super Dimension Century Orgus, and Super Dimension Cavalry Southern Cross. And they would all have, this kind of thing in common, where there was like this kind of like this idea of love against a backdrop of war. And in Macross and in Southern Cross, it's an interplanetary war, and in Orgus, it's actually a little different. It's more like different timelines intersecting.
That sounds That sounds like a clusterfuck in the making.
Yeah, Orgus is interesting. It's very interesting. It's Orgus is probably it's pretty good. It's not as good as Macross, but it's pretty good. I think Southern Cross is like the weakest one out of all 3. But like these shows were, completely unrelated. Now, a lot of people know Macross as the, especially my age, right? You grew up watching, this on TV as Robotech, because you had this guy, Carl Masick was bringing over a lot of anime, and Carl Masick, you either love him or you hate him. Right, he's a very divisive guy, because you love him because he helped to bring over anime and increase Western awareness, at least North American awareness of anime. But you hate him because he absolutely butchered everything.
Yeah, like I actually watched a couple of episodes of Robotech, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Oh yeah. Well, he basically like changed all the names of a lot of the characters. For example, Hikaru Ichijo is now Rick Hunter. Misa Hayase is Lisa Hayes. He changes a lot of the names, and it's weird because because of the syndication rights and everything like that. Macross didn't have enough episodes to air in the United States, so they needed more episodes. So he got license for Southern Cross, and he didn't get the license for Orgus.
Oh, thank God.
Instead, he went to a completely different show called Genesis Climber Mos Piata, and he licensed that as the 3rd generation of Robotech. And he ties them all together as this storyline, this epic storyline across 3 generations. And while it was really kind of ambitious, his decision he dumbed down certain things, but he didn't dumb it down as much as he could have. I will say that, because as a kid, one of the reasons I liked Robotech so much, especially compared to like the other shows on TV like G.I. Joe or Thundercats, was Robotech had an ongoing storyline, and it had characters that grew and developed, and they changed, and it was this big epic tale. And I'm like in 1st and 2nd grade, and I absolutely loved this show. It was my favorite cartoon, period. I used to run home from school to be able to make it in time to watch Robotech. And when I got to high school, I became, middle school and high school, I started becoming aware that this Macross thing and all these other shows were originally unrelated in Japan. And I was like, well, I wonder what the original Japanese was like. And I started seeing like at the video stores, like the VHS cassettes for like Macross 7, Macross Plus. And I'm like, wow, there's this entire Macross is this entirely huge franchise over in Japan. And we're not getting any of it really. Well, we were getting some of it, but we couldn't get the original Macross. Yeah, you can't get the original Macross. You have to, you couldn't back then. You can actually, if you're at least in the United States, you can watch it on Amazon. Like if you've got Amazon Prime, you can watch the original Macross subtitled on Amazon Prime. I don't know how they did that. I really don't know, because Harmony Gold has the company that originally, licensed all this stuff for Robotech, they have like an iron fist grasp over these licenses.
Oh, they still have it.
Yeah, they still have it. I mean, I'm so mad that Studio Nue and Artland and the other producers kind of like settled Tatsunoko. I'm frustrated they all settled with Harmony Gold and didn't get the rights to it back, right? But we have had like box sets. Back in the aughts, there was a really good box set of the original SDF Macross that came out. There was a dub, and what's interesting is Eiji Mamari, who originally voiced Lin Min Mei, she actually lives in Los Angeles. She speaks English pretty well.
Uh-huh.
And so she actually voiced Lin Min Mei in the English dub that came out in the aughts.
Oh, that's
like
cool.
10 or 15 years ago. And so she actually voiced Min Mei in the dub. But yeah, it's you know, that's some of the background. Like, you know, the interesting thing too is you got to keep in mind that this came out 2 years after around 2 years after Mobile Suit Gundam ended. So like Mobile Suit Gundam starts this idea of the jacked up spaceship that's being chased by, you know, the enemy forces. And even though that's only that's not like the whole of Gundam.
There's a lot to it, but it's like it's a plot structure, you know,
Yeah.
like they're on a ship, they're getting away, and you know, like just shit happens. Like if you watch, like actually quite a few of the Gundam shows use that exact same fucking formula. Like quite a few of them.
A lot of them do.
Yeah, like they're on
a lot of mecha shows do. Like Zabungle kind of does that. A lot of these shows do. Right, you got the jacked up fortress ship that's constantly being harassed by an enemy, and like that they kind of like, this is like one of the second or third show to do that, but they decided to take this in completely different directions, and
the super jacked up ship becomes a giant mech.
Yeah, it's like, oh shit, we're transforming shit is the thing now. We're gonna make the ship transform, which is really lame, but it works.
It's like Transformers. It's like Triptychon transforms into a giant spaceship, or Metroplex turns into like a city. Like I guarantee you, these guys were inspired by Transformers. It's like, hey, there's robots.
Actually, some of these guys designed some of the Transformers.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
I mean, some of the guys who worked on actually like Transformers totally like licensed one or two of the designs to incorporate one or two of the transforming planes and stuff into the Transformers show. So yeah.
Well, actually, if you look at the mechs they use, like they're very similar to like the Seekers in Generation 1, you know, like Starscream, Thundercracker, and Skywarp. Like they look very similar to that shit. They look very similar.
Yeah, some of the designers were the same guys. Yeah, absolutely. Some of the designers were the same.
Yeah, you gotta love Transformers for that. It's like it gave you inspiration for all this cool mecha shit. But yeah, like it literally reminds, like it's almost like a triple changer from Transformers. Like they go into jet mode, and they go into like ground mode, and they go into like robot mode and shit. Like it's great. Like, well, Walker mode more. It's more like Walker mode, but you know,
Batroid or Battleroid, Gerwalk, and Fighter. Yeah, those are the three configurations. What's funny is if you watch Orgus, the jet fighters do the exact same thing. They have Batroid, they have Gerwalk, and they have which is like halfway jet, halfway robot, and then they have fighter jet. It's like they do the exact same thing in Orgus.
Yeah. So it's about so Transformers. I think we should also mention, should we bring up like proto-culture now, or should we talk about that later when we sort of like dive more into the show?
Yeah, if you're only familiar with Macross through Robotech, I really suggest you kind of like forget everything you know, because like for Robotech, proto-culture was reinterpreted as like this power source that came from this flower, because they were trying to incorporate what was in Southern Cross into the storyline. In the original Macross, the proto-culture is just this like ancient culture that existed like 500,000 years ago somewhere in the galaxy, and they did the whole life seeding thing, right? It was a common sci-fi trope, and it pops up a lot.
It. Some other sci-fi shows use it, you know,
Star Trek even used it in the Next Generation at one point. So it pops up, and you got so they like life seeded everything, but they were attacked. I mean, okay, if I want to just stick to the lore of the original Macross, what happened to them is they were destroyed by their own creations. They created a race of giant warriors, and the giant warriors split into the Supervision Army and the Zentradi forces. and the two just got locked into a perpetual war that was lasting forever, right? It was not ending.
Yeah, this is a massive galaxy war of giants. Like, imagine Transformers Civil War, but all over the fucking galaxy. Like, it's that type of level of conflict.
Yeah, well, a better look would be like maybe Warhammer 40,000.
Yeah.
Right, where the galaxy is so huge, which is real, that's true. The galaxy is absolutely enormous, and so you think of like a galaxy expanding conflict. Well, then it only makes sense that it would last thousands of years at least. So you've got this war that's been lasting for 500,000 years, and the protoculture is pretty much extinct. And humans have culture, and the giant species do not.
Yeah, like
they don't have culture.
I remember the episode where they're on the ship, and like there's no one's fixing it, no one's like repairing it, or no one's doing anything. Like they just have ships.
No, they don't know. They have automated factory ships that produce their vessels and everything, and these automated factory ships have been running for, as you'll find out like later in the show when they capture one, it keeps breaking down. And the reason for this is because like the Zentradi have no idea how to fix shit. They don't know how to repair anything. So you get this kind of like feeling like they're only a couple thousand years away from basically going extinct themselves. It's probably them and the Supervision Army, because I have no doubt that the Supervision Army's own forces are in a kind of similar predicament where their factory ships are probably gradually breaking down, and they don't know how to repair them.
Like if you look at any war, what is one of the most important things? It's supply, it's repairing stuff, it's maintenance and supply chains. Like you can have as many
logistics.
Logistics. Like, you can have as many soldiers as you want, but if they have no bullets, no guns to use, then they're fucking useless. Like, you could outnumber your enemy, like, 20, 100 to 1, but if they don't have any weapons or good equipment, like, they're gonna get fucking smashed, crushed. That's just a simple, basically, that's the short of end of it. And it's like, like, you have this race, like the Zentradi and the super whatever army, and they have all this advanced technology, yet they don't know how to fix their own shit. And like when the humans find that, it's like what I was seeing. It was kind of like a mind-boggling concept that they don't know how to fix shit. And we should talk more about the Zentradi, but the Zentradi themselves are like these giants, and they're about war and shit. And they came here because the Macross ship actually belonged to the Supervision Army.
Yeah, and it crash landed on Earth, and it was
and we rebuilt it.
It ended up being we rebuilt it, and it ended up having a fail-safe booby trap in it, right? And it's funny because they talk about this sort of thing, like you set up booby traps and things like that for a retreating enemy, and or for an advancing enemy. Like if you're retreating, you set up booby traps and stuff like that. And I've had I actually have had experience talking to veterans of World War II, both in both the European and the Pacific theaters, as well as Vietnam vets. And that's one of the things they've talked about, right? They've talked about like booby traps left behind, getting their buddies and stuff like that.
Yeah, my great grandfather actually fought in the Pacific campaign, and then another one of my great grandfathers, he fought in like the African campaign. So I actually knew a guy who was actually at Omaha Beach when they were storming.
Ooh, yeah. Well, anyway, for us to not like digress too far off topic and go into the giant discussion. I mean, it is kind of like what's interesting is they do get into military strategy to a degree, which is something that I kind of like about this. Like,
they're not like fire guns, pew pew, enemy.
No, they come to this planet. They're like the Zentradi show up at the planet, and I love their commander. Bretai is one of my favorite characters.
Yes, he's great. He's
Bretai. And you find out like halfway through the show, like when they're trying to capture the main characters and everything, and like they get this is one of the reasons they build the robots, the transforming jet fighters transforming the robots, and so they can actually combat these giant warriors. And like Britai, man, the one scene where they basically gets in a fist fight with them, and he's beating the shit out of them.
Yeah, he like rips the cockpit out and shit.
He rips the whole front of the robot. He like throws it up against the wall, rips the whole front of the robot off, and like there's Hikaru looking out at Britai. He's like, yeah, he flips him over, body slams him. I mean, dude, like Britai is the shit, dude. You find out like, oh, this is why he's the commander, because he's bad, and this is probably also why half his skull is made of metal, because he's got war wounds. But he's no joke.
This guy is a natural born warrior. So back to the military strategy thing. So when the Zentradi sort of like arrive on our solar system, like this is like
one of the first things that they do is they just send out a recon, like two I guess you could say destroyers or something like that.
Yeah, they send a scout
recon force.
You know, they send a
small scout force, and it's a complete sacrifice because they know if the booby trap is there, those two ships are going to trip it, and it does. And you know, we see the Macross automatically fire its main cannon and blow these two ships up.
Yeah, and I think
the Zentradi are like, oh, they're there. There they are. They're there. All right, we got them. And it's like, we don't know anything about this planet, but we do know the Supervision Army ship is here. And they're looking at it and like, what the hell? Like, one of the things they're looking at the South Italia island that the ship crash landed on and has been rebuilt on.
Yeah.
And they're looking at this city that's developed. And again, that's something that makes sense, right? You're rebuilding this giant alien ship, and to support it, you're going to need all kinds of industry, all kinds of businesses.
Yeah, because people are going to live there.
A city naturally develops around the 10 years it takes to reconstruct this starship.
Well, it's actually cheaper that way to build a city around it because the people that are fixing the ship, like they're not going anywhere. Like they can just build a home there, and it's like, okay, you know, your 9 to 5 is done. Go home, then go back next day. Like, you know, and naturally your city will develop, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So the city naturally develops. And like Britai and Exodol are looking at the
Exodol's the archive guy, right?
Yeah, Exodol's the archivist.
Yeah, he's
cool as shit too.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, I love so many of the characters in this show.
Yeah, some of the Zentradi characters in the show is great. But anyway, back to the city.
Yeah, they're looking at her like these people have no concept of how to like lay out any kind of like defensive position. And what's cool is they do a number of things, right, that make perfect strategic sense. They bombard they bombard the island first, and that's to soften your opposition. So they bombard it from space first. Then they launch an aerial attack. While the aerial attack is engaging the ground forces, they then try to envelop the defenses of the island by landing ground forces on the, you know, while they're distracted. So all of a sudden now ground forces have surrounded the island, and they're coming out of the water, and they're attacking, right? And it's like, wow, this is it's very simple, but it reflects the fact that the writers are thinking about strategy. They're thinking about
and it's actually
how to do this.
It's like, it's, you know, when you're talking about like military commanders or how to rate them, like this strategy is actually very good. It's very effective because what do? Soften up the target. Then they send air forces to distract them. And then as the main body of your enemy is distracted, they send in ground troops to basically fucking flank them, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
That's a good strategy. And it sort of shows you, like, the Zentradi themselves, like, they're not stupid. Like, when it comes to military... When it comes to strategy and tactics,
extremely experienced.
They're good. Like, they're some of the best general military commanders that you can have. Like,
they're very experienced. They know what they're doing. And it's at this point, I think maybe we should mention talk a little bit more about Hikaru, because Hikaru this is the point where he gets sucked in.
Yeah, he gets.
So we're actually just kind of like skipping through episodes, I guess, but that's fine.
What are we on? Like, we're on like episode 2. The only thing that's important is Hikaru, Midmay, Misa, and Maximilian. Those are the only people that matter.
Yeah, we're pretty much in episode 2 at this point. So we've been introduced to the ship, the main crew at this point. We've been introduced to these people. We've seen some of the characters interact. We get this, and that's the thing, is they establish a number of things right off the bat that are very, very good.
Roy is Hikaru's senpai. Roy and
Yes.
the Haitian girl are Fang. Do they reveal the thing about Misa, or was that in another episode?
Oh, that's a little bit later.
Okay, it's a little bit later, but yeah.
You do see that Claudia and Misa are really close. That's one thing that you get, is it like basically based on the character interaction, you can see that they're really close. So you get introduced to Claudia and Misa, and you get a sense that Misa is very by the book.
Yes,
right?
she's very straight-laced. She's very no-nonsense.
She's a very straight-laced, she's very no-nonsense, she's a very professional officer, right? She takes her job extremely seriously. And we get introduced to Minmay, who at this point is, I think, she's like 15.
I think she's 15, 16.
Yeah, and I think Hikaru is a couple of years older than her. I think he's like 16 or 17.
If I remember correctly, he's about, I think, 17 to 18. Like, he's nearly a young adult. Like, he's close, like, one more year.
He's close to majority.
Yeah.
And so he encounters Minmay. He thinks she's cute. Roy is kind of egging him on. I was like, damn, dude, she's hot. And Roy, of course, he's the American.
Yeah, you can kind of tell.
Yeah, he's named Roy Fokker is his last name, and that's a reference to a plane, a World War II German plane.
Yeah, if I remember, I was watching a documentary about like one of these German aces that used to like fuck up the Russians, and like he actually brought him and his squadron like basically surrendered to the Americans, and I think he was piloting a Fokker or something. I'll have to double check. I'll
Focke-Wulf?
Yes, him.
Yeah, no, I mean he was piloting a Focke-Wulf or something like that.
Yeah, it might have been that guy. I'll link you the video I was watching later after this podcast, but yeah. So a lot of references to military stuff in here, and it sort of shows you like an attention to detail that the people that made this show sort of know what they're talking about as well.
Yeah, he's actually named after the I think the manufacturing company. And if I recall, he actually piloted there's a brief shot, I think it's of a memory, where he's piloting a Fokker
during the Unification Wars.
No. This is, I think, in a flashback that.
Oh, yes, he is because it's the farm scene.
Yeah,
where
exactly.
Hikaru is. Yeah. So yeah, like so it shows the attention to detail that the people who are making this sort of know what they're talking about.
Yeah, so he left Hikaru's dad's flying circus to become a fighter jock during the Unification Wars.
And apparently he's quite good. He like had like 100 something confirmed kills.
Oh yeah, he's an ace.
Yeah, he is the Red Baron of Macross.
Yeah, he establishes that he's one hell of an ace. And Hikaru, he's like, you've got talent, why don't you join? And he says, Hikaru's like, I don't know, I'm not too keen on being a killer or anything like that.
Yeah, he's a bit flip-floppy at the moment, but,
Yeah, he's a little bit flip-floppy. Hikaru, at first glance, Hikaru seems like the character that is completely your standard issue protagonist, right? But Hikaru, as the show goes on, you'll see he actually does have very distinct character more flaws than anything else, believe it or not. But he's still a very likable character.
We'll discuss that when we get to like the mid-May section, because
I
want to go more about depth about her at some point, because the thing I told you.
Yeah, definitely. And Hikaru is a character though I think his biggest flaw is he makes decisions based off of impulse, right? He has very bad impulse control.
Yes, he does.
But as the show goes on, he does mature. As the show progresses, he does mature, but he still struggles with impulse control all the way up till the end. He struggles with impulse control, and that is his like Achilles heel, man. That is his Achilles heel, because it's like every time he has this impulse to do something, and it's like, okay, bro, I know why you want to do this. I know the emotions behind it. Don't do this. It's gonna get your ass.
It always fucks up.
Does
like he always backfires horribly when he does that as well. Like you notice. Yeah. Like, it starts out with small consequences, and then it eventually ends up with people losing their lives because of his, like, because
most of the time, I think most of the time when people die, it's not.
But you sort of see the show where, like, his lack of, his lack of, like, self-control leads to so many bad situations, like his relationship with Misa and Mid-May, and,
we'll get to that. Well, I mean, as we were going through the show, he gets a tour of the cockpit of one of the new fighters, and all of a sudden that's when the Zentradi attack.
Yeah, and then
And he's sitting there like, don't move, don't go anywhere. And he's sitting in this jet. And all of a sudden, like, Misa pops up on the screen and she's like, why haven't you taken off? And he's wearing the helmet and everything. He's like, okay. She's like, don't argue with me, take off. And he's like, okay. And it's one of those things like you say, like, why the hell would somebody do that? Why would they do that? Dude, one of the biggest flaws that Japanese people have, and people in general, but Japanese are a little bit bigger on this, is when an authority figure tells you to do something, you do it. Look at the shocking the experiments where people had to shock an actor, and the actor was pretending to be shocked. But these were psychology experiments, and you got this authority figure says the experiment must continue. It's like, dude, if I shock him anymore, I'll kill him. It's like the experiment must continue. You got this guy in a lab coat, he's being an authority figure telling you what to do. Most people, believe it or not, obey the authority figure. And you might think like, oh, I wouldn't do that. No, you probably would, and you get your ass shot up because you'd be scared right up until you realize you were caught up in the war. You do exactly, if you had the ability to pilot, you do exactly what Hikaru did. And Hikaru's just following what people are telling him to do. Looks like an authority figure. She's telling him to do something. He's going to do it. So he ends up in the middle of the...
well, fuck, I guess I'm a fighter pilot now.
Yeah, exactly. And so, he gets caught up in it, and then, Roy has to bail him out, saves him.
Yeah, and Roy's like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you a fighter pilot now?
Yeah, exactly. And Roy thinks this is kind of funny, but, he's like, man, this is just another day's work for me. What are you? Meanwhile, Hikaru's wetting himself. But this is the funny thing, right? How many times have we seen somebody just jump in the robot? And starting in the 70s, right? This is not new. But how many times have we seen somebody just jump in the robot with no training and win? Evangelion kind of subverts that with Shinji barely being able to take a step forward without falling down. And then
and also in that case, they had the dummy plug system or what the AV actually was taking control.
But in Macross, Hikaru is already an accomplished pilot. He knows how to take off and land. He knows how to do stuff, and his show up where he shows up in the stunt plane, he actually outmaneuvers in his introductory scene. He actually outmaneuvers the jets and does a booster climb and beats them.
Yeah,
so this displays competency as a pilot. So
as a pilot, yes, but as a Battleroid pilot,
no, exactly. And so, he once he transforms into the robot, he can't even figure out how to walk the damn thing.
Yeah, didn't he crash into Min-Mei's restaurant or something?
He crashes into Min-Mei's house, into her bedroom. In fact, the head of the robot crashes, almost kills him. Almost kills her and some random kid from the neighborhood. And yeah, but basically, we see this series of events where he figures out how to use it. Figures out how to use the girl walk. There's the epic scene where he's flying and the missiles come out and they start shooting shrapnel and the arm that's holding Min-Mei breaks off. And you have this very memorable scene. It's one of the biggest scenes in the show where he's rapidly descending to catch up to her, opens the canopy, grabs her, pulls her in, and then the canopy closes. Reality is the canopy will probably be ripped the hell off by the wind.
Yeah, especially at terminal velocity.
Yeah.
Because the thing with jets is that not only was he going fast, he's engaging his boosters. So terminal velocity is going to get the G-force would rip his head from his skull.
I don't know about that, but it would definitely rip the canopy of the plane off in reality. But nevertheless, he saves it, right? And that's one of the most epic scenes in the beginning, and it kind of establishes their relationship, right? He's the hero, he saved the princess, right? In theory. And you also, that's around when you find out that the alien race is actually giant, and that's
he encounters one and he's shocked, he's about to fire, but he can't do it. He's like, oh my god, what, this looks like a human being except a giant.
And that's also that's also when the Macross engages the space fold device, right?
Yeah, basically to
try to escape. It actually is based off of, and this is the thing, is these guys knew their science fiction, right? These guys knew their science fiction. Space folding is basically the creation of a wormhole, an Einstein-Rosen bridge, where you basically bend space and the ends of the bend the fabric of space-time so much that you create a wormhole to another location, and so it's instantaneous travel from one point to another. There is science behind it, right? And science fiction has used
the gaps.
Yeah, has used wormholes and space fold as a method to explain FTL, faster than light travel. So these guys, they not only do they know there's science fiction, if you're watching this show, you might notice stores that are, random stores called General Products. General Products is from the Larry Niven's science fiction novels. And that's a corporation that's in Larry Niven's science fiction works. So like you might notice that popping up a lot, not just in Macross, but in a lot of 80s, 70s, and 80s science fiction from Japan. And that's like that right there is the one of those Easter eggs where it's just like, if you know your sci-fi, you'll get this. And so like, yeah, the ship folds, and it's supposed to just fold to the dark side of the moon. Instead, it folds beyond the orbit of Pluto, and it brings the island with it. So anybody not in an airtight shelter, and it seems most of the surviving population made it to the airtight shelters, but if you weren't in an airtight shelter, you just died.
Yeah, like you're dead. Like half the.
Yeah, you're toast. You're toast. So the ship folds space, and they don't explain why, but it could be anything. It could be. But actually, what's funny is the ship and the island folded to beyond the orbit of Pluto, so the calculations were bad. But the fold device itself, the engine, it never came with them. So where is it? God only knows, right? That question is never asked. So and I'm like, this is cool. You're using alien technology you don't know everything about.
Yeah, like if I remember correctly, like they managed to fix it as best as they could, and the rest they couldn't. They scrapped, or they
yeah,
because
the residual energy becomes the pinpoint barrier system too.
Yeah, exactly. Like they almost make their own technology out of like alien technology, but like remember the scene where like Hikaru and Minmay, they get trapped in like the underside of the ship, and they see some like the giant stuff. Yeah, they see something.
Dude, that episode. That's episode 4. That is actually one of the best episodes in the show too. Yeah. It's like the first, I'd say like the first 6 episodes, the first 4 episodes are really, really key, right? This is something where if you sit down and you start watching this, the first 4 episodes especially are so interconnected. It's hard not to sit down and watch them straight through. They're so interconnected. It is you can't. This is one of those things where it's just like not just like they form a very complete arc, and the 4th episode is like one of the most important parts of that, because that in so many ways establishes a foundation for Hikaru and Minmay's relationship, because they're effectively trapped in the guts of the ship, in the guts of the Macross, right? They were trying to escape. They found Hikaru's stunt plane, and they got caught up in the fold. So they basically fly into a damaged section of the ship before the repair walls come down and seal them in. And now they're kind of trapped. They don't know where they are. They don't know how to find help. It's a maze. You also get this concept of how big the damn ship is.
It's massive.
Yeah, it's like a mile long, at least. And so they're running around trying to find a way out because they're running out of food. And at one point, it's interesting. Like Minmay they start to get to know each other. They talk about each other's past, their hopes and dreams. Minmay sings, I think it's Cinderella is the name of the song. And that song is actually by Iijima Mari, the voice actress. She was actually she actually is an accomplished singer.
Minmay's voice actually sounds quite soothing, so I wouldn't like not a bad singer, so like that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Her own stuff is actually like most of the stuff that they have as Minmay. Oh, excuse me. Most of the stuff that I have as Minmay is just like really just bubblegum pop stuff. But 1 or 2 of the songs that Minmay has are actually really catchy, like Zero G Love. Sunset Beach is an okay song. Shanghai Dandy. That's there's so many. Actually, she really does have some good songs, but like Cinderella always caught me because that was a song that Mari Iijima wrote herself, and it was a cappella. It was just something that was not meant for accompaniment. She would just sing it all by herself. And so Min-Mei sings that song, and that's when she describes how she wants to be a singer. It's her talent. It's what she's good at. And that's what her dream is to do, what she wants to do is for a job is to be a singer. And that establishes so much about her character.
Yeah, she's a performer. She
got dreams.
Yep, dreams as well.
And at this point, they're innocent. At this point, Min-Mei's dreams are innocent, right? And Min-Mei and Hikaru, right? They start depending on each other and everything like that. And then they have the mock wedding scene. And where she says she wants to get married at some point in her life, and she's afraid. She's like, at this point, I'll never be a singer, and I'm never going to get married. None of these things are going to happen. What the hell is the point? We're all going to die down. We're both going to die down here. Let's just throw ourselves out the airlock, And he's trying to comfort her, and he's about to kiss her, and then, boom, something comes through the ceiling, and it turns out all the civilians have rebuilt the city inside the belly of the spaceship.
Yeah, they won't starve to death, but also he got cock-blocked. It's like, damn it.
Pretty much.
It's like, and come on, 5 more minutes.
After that, his relationship, that moment, and come on, so many of us guys have experienced this. We've had this moment with a girl, and it's like, it's on. And it's not even about scoring. It's more about oh shit, man, we're falling in love. This is going to be amazing. Right?
It's the magic moment, and then your friend...
This magic moment. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the magic moment, and then just as it's about to happen, it stops, or it's like someone walks in, or someone comes in, and it's like, oh, fuck.
And the moment is gone, bro. The moment is gone, and you're never going to get it back, because now, oh, baby, you got what I need. And you say he's just a friend, and you say he's just a friend. And that's Hikaru's song for the rest of the show with Min-Mei.
Yeah, because he
almost the rest of the show.
Yeah,
he's just a friend.
Yeah. Should we since we sort of talked about that, should we sort of go more into the love triangle and stuff like that, and sort of my observations of Min-Mei and yours, and then Misa's, and the sort of the love triangle shit? Because
Min-Mei, let's start with Min-Mei. Let's talk about Min-Mei. Right, we could spend all day recounting the entire show.
And let's not do that, because it's going to waste too much time. We've only got anything else that we forget that we think is important. We can just add that in later.
Yeah. Let's talk about let's start talking about Min-Mei's character. Right, Min-Mei represents, in my opinion, Min-Mei represents the kind of girl that you want when you're young and you're immature. Right, she's vibrant. She's got dreams. She's pretty.
She's youthful.
She's youthful. She's got talent. Right, and she's fun to be around. She's got a bubbly personality. I don't want to say she's shallow.
I don't think she's shallow as well. I just like how I told you before, when I first watched the show, I thought Min-Mei was amazing, and then on my second rewatch, I'm just she really isn't really all that great. I don't know. I was trying to explain to you before. I don't know what it is, but it's just when I see Min-Mei now, I have nothing against her character. I think she's great for what she is, but I originally thought she was really she was great, great in a girl sense. But it's just I'm watching this now, I'm just she really isn't that great.
No. Well, as time goes on, she becomes successful, right? She becomes successful. She becomes she takes Hikaru for granted. And near the end of the show, when after the Earth's been devastated and she's touring cities, trying to boost morale, and
rebuild Earth.
Yeah, and Kaifun is getting pissed off because he's they're paying us in rations, and she's this is all they have. Actually, she's matured a lot at that point, because he's you're a professional, you don't work for free, and she's bro, we're rebuilding the planet, right? And he's you're a professional, I'm your manager.
Yeah, so much for the enlightened kung fu guy.
Exactly. And so, how many people virtue signal and in reality are complete assholes? Lin Kaifun is that exact archetype, right?
He is
that exact archetype.
He is. Oh, I'm a pacifist. Oh, I know Shaolin Kung Fu. Oh, I'm better than you. Actually, I'm not.
Oh, the military, they're bad, and they just kill. And I have this, enlightened position. And then he turns around and he's an alcoholic, and he's a complete jerk. And
also Shaolin Kung Fu master. By the way, Shaolin Kung Fu isn't just for defense, man. I've read stories of people with Shaolin Kung Fu that have basically killed a guy. one of the famous stories. It's an apocryphal story, but basically, like, there's a story about this boy who goes up to learn like kung fu with the Shaolin monks, and they have him like hit this bowl of water, and he's a rich kid, and they keep on hitting this bowl of water. And when he goes back to his family after his tutelage, like, they ask him, "Oh, what have you learned?" And he like strikes the table and he says, like, "I learned nothing." And he like broke the solid oak wood table in half. Like, if anyone says that, oh, Shaolin Kung Fu or Kung Fu is for self-defense, like, it's also for like, martial arts can kill people, alright? There's some martial arts out there that are banned because of moves that can kill people, like Muay Thai and shit like that. Like, get the fuck out of here, bro.
But anyway, getting back to Mid-May, getting back on topic.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is like, she's not. You'll be tempted to look at her as a bad person after a while, and my advice is
I didn't view her as a bad person. It's just more like it's almost like she really is. It's like having a steak, like a really good steak, and it's like, oh, that was nice, but I've had better. Like, it's kind of like that type of feeling. Yeah. It's just like, like, she's cool, but like, it's almost like when I first watched the show, I thought she was great, but now I feel like it's like, oh, she's good, but not great anymore. It's that type of feeling.
Yeah, and it's like, you don't realize what you've got until it's gone, and that's the thing, is like you and I disagree on that. I think Min-May is a tragic character. I think she's go ahead.
I think that she's like an unfortunate character, but I don't view her so much as tragic. Like, I mean, that's kind of like, oh, me and Fool having a disagreement. Like, yeah, I view her as more like this is more circumstantial. Like, it's like, she's, to me, this is more like, this is her rough patch. Like, I don't view her as anything like tragic. Like, to me, this is like, okay, this is like the rough part. Like, this is a rough patch of her life, but not necessarily like tragic.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, is we don't know how she ends up, but she becomes, if you watch like the Macross Frontier and Macross 7 and stuff, Min-May's story is looked upon as this wonderful, romantic, epic journey in which she goes from being a simple girl to being the person who saves humankind with her music.
She's almost like a messiah figure in that instance.
Yes, and it's far beyond how much they would view other people, right? Like, she's the one. You get this sense that if in future generations, if future generations can only name one person from the original, like from the space war between the Zentradi and humans, if they can only name one person, they can name Lin Min-May, because her song basically changed the Zentradi and basically saved humanity. And that's, she's gone from being this simple person, not even a simple pop idol. Like, this is a person who literally changed the galaxy, right? She not only saved humanity, she changed an entire race of space giants from being obsessed with perpetual war to now, like, wanting to have culture, wanting to have a light, wanting to have more than just that. And it's one of those things where it's like, your shoes, the shoes that you got to fill just got really big, and they've always been your own. And like, how do you deal with that? And and not just that, like, you've got, like, that's everybody's memory of her, right? What everybody thinks of her. And to go beyond just that, you've got that going on, and all, like, she wanted to be a singer, but didn't necessarily want to be this huge pop idol. And so she goes through this crisis, right? Where she's realizing near the end of the show, she's realizing that she took for granted Hikaru, right? She had him this whole time. She chose Lin Kai-Fun because he was handsome. He was, all these things like that. Most girls, like, they see the alpha walk in and they're like, ooh. And
but he's anything but the alpha walking.
Well, he looks in a lot of ways like the alpha. I mean, all the girls think he's handsome and everything like that. And he's drawn to be something of a Bishonen.
Which is funny, because Maximilian, like, if you want to talk about alphas, that dude's like an alpha.
Oh, he's totally a Bishonen. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, no, but Maximilian, like, that guy is alpha as fuck.
But, like, Min-May chooses, and not only that, like, she ends up, like, really missing the times that she spent with Hikaru, and she really ends up missing that, and so she tries to get it back near the end, and she's like, I'm going to quit being a singer, you quit being a soldier, and we'll just be regular people, right? And Hikaru's like, nah, man, I can't do that. I'm protecting you, I'm protecting everybody else and
It's
basically she
it's
gets
like
dumped.
it's like the burden of responsibility. Like imagine Legend of the Galactic Heroes, and Reinhard decides that he just quits. Like he's just like one day he's like, I'm done being emperor. Bye, bitches.
Yeah, and that's the thing is
like he can't just do that. I mean, he can, but it's
it's selfish. But I understand why she's going through this, because it's just like, this didn't pan out how you expect, right?
She just wanted to be a small time singer, and now she's like this goddess of music.
She's the only pop idol left, really, if you think about it. Like, everybody else on Earth was destroyed in the orbital bombardment, right? Like 90% of the life on Earth was killed by the Zentradi bombardment. And yep, you're it. You're it. You're the only singer left.
It's like a movie, like The Last Pop Idol. I'm just imagining like The Last Samurai, except it's like mid-May with like a Japanese like style idol uniform, and it just says The Last Idol.
And so you got her, and like I said, she represents the kind of girl that you want, and she's also a temptation too. Like Hikaru, kind of like most of the last episodes, at first you think like he managed to put it behind him, but as time goes on, he's kind of like, I don't know, he hasn't seen her in 2 years. He goes back, he follows his impulse, and he goes back and he watches one of her concerts, and he gets back in touch with her, and they start a new romance, right? They go back into a romance, and that results in him being distracted from the girl that he really should be with, right? Min-Mei represents that girl that you want to have when you're immature, you're young, and you don't really understand things. And Misa, on the other hand, she represents the mature choice. That when you're a grown-ass man, you actually want somebody like Misa over somebody like Min-Mei, because Misa is responsible, she's intelligent, she's got decision-making capabilities. I mean, when she's reintroduced, when they jump 10 years into the future, and you can see, I think, what is it, episode 28, when they jump 2 years into the future, she's like cleaning up Hikaru's house. And you get this feeling like they have this relationship, and it's a little bit more than just friends. And
unlike with Mid-May, where she basically like friend zoned him for high pie long.
Yeah, exactly. And Misa is completely honest, not to Hikaru, but with herself, that she's in love with this guy. Like, by this point, you could tell she knows she's in love with him, but she's mad. She's mad because he's carrying a torch for a girl who basically friend zoned him back for like 4 years straight, pretty much.
Yeah. By the way, I do believe, like, I want to say this, like, I think Hikaru got a really raw deal out of it, but also at the same time, like, I think it's both their faults that it ended up like that, because he never really stopped her from doing that. Like, he could have, like, fucking. Like he didn't do anything to prevent the friend zoning, is what I'm trying to say. Like, would you agree?
Yes and no. I mean,
I think it's both Min-Mei and his fault, but basically, like he got a raw deal, but he didn't really do anything to stop the friend zoning.
You're kind of right. I'm not gonna lie. Like, Hikaru really didn't do anything to stop the friend zoning. If anything, well, that's the thing is Misa's not the kind of girl that this, like, what do they talk about when they talk about getting friend zoned and avoiding the friend zone? You got to learn game, son. You got to learn game, right? Pickup artistry, stuff like that, crap like that. The woman you want to end up with is never the one that crap is going to work on. I got friends, man, who married girls and married women they kick game to, and like, they're not happy. They're not happy because the woman that this crap is going to work on is not the one you want. And Misa is the kind of girl that crap ain't going to work on. Hell, if you look at how, when Claudia is talking to Misa about how Claudia and Roy got together, what did Roy try? He tried kicking game. Like, he set up a date with them, and he shows up with other girls. Now, most women, that will piss most women off, but at the same time, because they'll be like, who the hell does he think he is? Because I want to be special princess. But at the same time, most women are going to also think, like, all those girls were hanging off of him. He's somebody important. Like, there's going to be that ticking in her head somewhere when you're talking about most girls. Claudia didn't think that. Claudia's like, Claudia starts and stops at, who the hell does he think he is? I'm not wasting my time with this guy. End of discussion, right? And that was it. And how did Roy actually get Claudia? He's afraid of getting killed because he went to being a test pilot after the war. He's afraid of getting killed testing one of the new fighters, and he levels with her about how scared he gets. And that is what wins her over, being honest, which establishes Claudia as a mature, sophisticated, intelligent character, right?
Yep.
This show, I don't know if Kick a Game would have worked on Min-Mei, but she's not the kind of girl, I'll put it to you this way. Min-Mei is not the kind of girl who wouldn't fall for game. I know that's a double negative, but I'm not saying she's the kind of girl who would fall for game, but I'm saying that she's not the kind of girl who wouldn't. You follow what I mean, right?
Yeah, I kind of get it.
You know, and so Misa is the kind of girl like Claudia. She would not fall for this crap. And not only that, part of it is because Mista is carrying a torch for somebody too this whole time. Hikaru is actually, in some ways, he's got it worse because Misa's carrying a torch for a dead man, Carl Reber. And like he basically died retreating from Mars when the anti-unification forces struck, right? He was part of the people that left Mars, and he was blown up. There ain't probably, if there's a body, it's probably floating in space somewhere. And that's it. It's like, you know, so Misa's got it worse, or rather Hikaru in some cases has it worse for Misa, worse with Misa than Misa's got it with Hikaru, you know, because
like, how can you compete with a dead man?
How can you compete with, he's not there to mess up, right? He's not there to mess up and for you to be in competition. You're in competition with somebody's memories. And, you know,
like basically as far as she's aware, like he's a walking saint.
Exactly. Yeah.
How can you compete? If you were like the bee's knees for this one chick and you die and she's holding a torch for you, she's gonna remember you as like the best man that ever existed. Like she doesn't care. You are a god among men to her. And Hikaru, he can't compete with that.
Yeah. Well, that's the funny thing is, you know, she never washed your underwear and she never found out, you know, she's never gone into the bathroom after you got finished dropping a douche. So she doesn't know you're human yet. And that's the thing, right? You find out the other person is human pretty quickly. You know, once you get in a serious relationship like that. But that's the thing is, you know, you got Misa who's in, you know, she's getting over it though as the show goes on. She's like, you know what? Hikaru's here. The problem is she keeps getting mad and jealous because Hikaru keeps, you know, pining for Min-Mei. And at this point, because Min-Mei, at the end of the show, Min-Mei actually realizes what she missed and is trying to get it back.
But
Misa
there is no going back. There is no going back.
Oh God, the episode, it's like, what is it? The second to last episode, I think it's like episode
it's like it's snowing
where
and
she's standing outside the door to his house, because it was slightly open, and Min-Mei asks if she can spend the night, and she's sitting there and she's half in shadows, and like the way it's done is beautiful, and she's just listening, and you hear Hikaru, her ask if she can spend the night, and like you could just see the tension in Misa where she's just like, God please no, God please no, God please no. And then she hears Hikaru say, all right, I guess, or something like that, and she just looks down, and you can just see like her heart is just broken, man. And like you're like and that's the thing, like she accepts it. Like she takes the commission to go be on the first colony ship, the captain of the first colony ship, and then goes to say goodbye to Hikaru, and then she tells Min-Mei basically like take care of him. She's mature enough to give up, right? And to know when she's beat. That's the funny thing is she's, you know, Min-Mei had won by that point. That Min-Mei won. It's what's his name? Kamjin Krevshera. That guy he attacks, and then in the very last episode he attacks, and that reorients Hikaru as to what his purpose is. And purpose is a big theme in the show, I guess you could say. But
I mean, we can talk more about that when we talk about like Maximilian and like the other Zentradi, because another interesting fact about the Zentradi, which we'll dive into shortly.
But that's the thing is like when you look at the end though, like Min-Mei, all she's got left. There's a great scene where she says to Hikaru, "Don't leave me alone," and Hikaru was basically running to join Misa and go fight Kamjin Krevshera's ship, and she cries out to him, "I don't want to be alone." And it's like, this is a woman who's been surrounded by people her whole life, and now because of her success success. She's experiencing the isolation of success. And this isolation has made her not a complete egotistical elitist jerk like it did with Kaifun. It made her lonely. And Hikaru turns to her and says, you're not alone. You have your songs. And what he means by that is you have a connection to your fans via your songs. You're not really alone. But that doesn't, you know, what is that, right? You have this connection to your fans, and the whole idol culture in the early 1980s was not as developed as it would become in the 90s and aughts, right?
Yes.
The solo item, the solo idol at that time was more common than, say, the idol group and the way they really commercialized idols in the 90s and aughts.
I don't know much about like the idol industry, but I know a little bit about it. Like I've heard a little bit about some stuff, and it can get pretty fucked at times. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you know, Minmei's she's like you've got your songs, and through that you have a connection to your fans. But that's the thing, is she's got a connection to her fans in that regard, but it's like in a lot of ways it's a one-way connection.
Yep.
Well, okay, it's two-way, but it's impersonal. It's personal for them, but impersonal for her.
Yeah, because she doesn't know who these people are. Like, we should talk about how there's like figurines or items of her that's been like, you know, like there's Zentradi soldiers, like they find the shit and they like, she's almost like their goddess.
Exactly. Yeah, when the Zentradi soldiers find like the singing dolls and stuff like that, and they hear her songs, and it's like they're experiencing, like they're having a religious experience for the first time. Many of them never experienced culture before.
Yeah, and like if I remember correctly, there's like an episode where half the fucking like army that's battling them, you know, they stop and like turn their guns on their commanders because it's like, oh my god, we're attacking Minmei, we're attacking our goddess.
Yeah, we're attacking Minmei, right? You know, it's like we're attacking, like we love Minmei, we love this stuff, we love what we're hearing, we love the music. This is also an example of how powerful soft power is.
I mean, we talk about like Japan influencing culture through anime. I mean, this is the end goal.
Yeah, dude, and it's like, honestly, like I kind of wish Japan like really woke up to this and understood this better. Like really, like Japanese culture, Japanese anime, stuff like that. Like this is Macross coming true. We're or at least I'm from the country that firebombed the hell out of Japan and atomic bombed them twice. And hell, I have family that got shot at by and shot at Japanese soldiers at Okinawa and Iwo Jima and stuff like that. Right?
My grandfather was in the Pacific campaign battling the Japanese. All right,
like,
I've got his old war medals. Like I looked them up, and they're war medals for excellence at the Pacific campaign. So like my great grandfather, he probably was like, I'm from the country with the people who were battling the Japanese on the island hopping, because there were New Zealand troops like deployed out there.
Yeah, one of my uncles served on the USS Nevada. I mean, like seriously, you know, I have a lot of family. You know, my mom. Well, it's my great uncles. A lot of my great uncles fought against the Japanese, and yet, like, here I am, decades and decades later. Hell, here I was as a teenager falling in love with Japan, and why?
That's funny. I'm having that.
Why?
I had that.
So much more powerful. I don't think I would be able to accept the United States declaring war on Japan. It would be a lot harder for me. Like, let's say, like they went, like, I don't know, our politics started to really fall apart. Knowing how, like, loving the stuff that they produce, loving their loving their history, loving their language, having met individual Japanese people and just like really liking those people. I have I've developed over the decades, hell, ever since I was a teenager, a deep love and appreciation for the Japanese people.
It's funny that you say that, because like I've got a bit of a soft spot for the Japanese as well. Yeah. Like I'm developing the soft spot, and I'm literally at that circumstance. It's like, well, like we're not going to talk into geopolitics, but it's just like, you know, if they were like, if say some country declared war on Japan, you know, a part of me
I'd be like, fuck those people.
Yeah, exactly. Like a part of me be like, well, fuck, they need my help. Like I'm going to go there and help.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
it's I don't think I'd actually do it in real life, like, but the thought occurs. Like, it's like, oh,
it's like, fuck those people, right?
It's weird.
Japan,
it's weird.
Fuck you.
It's weird. Like, I come from, like, I come from New Zealand. And, like, New Zealand, we're not really a militaristic people by nature. I mean, maybe I am because of the Anglo-Saxon roots and heritage. Maybe I've got a bit of that heritage going. But, like, you know, the thought, like, the fact that the thought occurs. Like, say for... Okay, let's use a different example. Okay, let's just imagine if Germany got invaded, all right? Let's use Germany. I personally wouldn't care.
Goodbye, Germany.
Yeah, like, that's exactly the thing that I would have. Now, say, for example, like, Japan got attacked, or maybe America, like, I would have the thought of, maybe I should sign up for the Defense League or some shit. Like, I would have the stray thought of, like, maybe I should join the fight. Like, I would have that thought for just a second. Now, whether or not I would actually follow through with it is a different story. But, you know, the fact that I had that thought, all right, sort of showcases the influence that Japan has had, like, the influence of soft power. Like, I'm basically just...
Exactly. And soft power, and what one of the things that Macross is really about is the difference between soft power and hard power.
Yeah.
Right? Hard power is the military stuff.
And soft power is culture. Is culture, religion, and all these things.
Exactly. I mean, one of the most important
like what's happening to Germany right now. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Well, that's hard power in a lot of ways, but still, it's one of the things that like started becoming apparent to us in the 1980s as you know Gorbachev took over. You had glasnost and perestroika and stuff like that in the Soviet Union, and there were people who thought the Cold War was getting hotter, but a lot of people who were like, nah, things are cooling off, because you had Billy Joel in Leningrad and you know doing a concert, and you realize like they want blue jeans, they want Coca-Cola, they want Pepsi, they want rock and roll. Oh my God, right? Soft power is so strong. It's possibly strong enough to tear down a wall separating two countries and splitting a city in half, right? That's the thing with soft power. And what Minmay represents in a lot of ways on this, you know, is that soft power. Minmay
is soft power made manifest.
And so you see that with the Zentradi who encounter Minmay, encounter her music, see all the different things that, you know, the, you know, Earthlings have, and they're like, we want in on this, right? We want in on this. We like this. We don't want to attack the people making this stuff.
Yeah, they like try. Some of them rebel. Like some of them rebel, join forces with Earth, and fight against their own comrades because of that. Like they care about Minmay so much and the stuff that she makes. They're like, we're willing to die for you.
Yeah.
And another interesting fact as well, and I think we should mention this about the Zentradi, is that that the men and women Zentradi are actually separated.
Yes, and that's in later works they split the Zentradi and the Zentron and Meltron into different, like a male Zentradi is a Zentron, female Zentradi is a Meltron, and they kind of split them in half. But that's the thing, is why? Because they don't need to procreate. They're all clones.
Yeah, they
right.
Yeah, and that was a very interesting thing, because like when Misa and Hikaru kiss when they're captured, like they're like disgusted by it, but also proto-culture.
Well, they're disgusted, they're horrified because they've never seen something like that before.
Yeah, like they don't know what
Hikaru
sex
and Misa first kiss, again, that's a major pivotal episode, right? When Hikaru and Misa first kiss, you know, and it's in front of all these Zentradi, they're like, they get headaches, they don't feel right. It's like you got a bunch of these grown-ass clone guys who are only known war, and now like you're just confronting them with like puberty or something like that.
Yeah, it was it's almost like a massive culture shock as well.
Oh yeah, it's like how do you know? Well, that's one of the things. Like, you're not cloned? No, men and women work together to produce and
they're like, what?
Offspring? What? How the hell does that work out?
It's like, what's offspring? What's this? It's like a 4-year-old learning, like it's like a 4-year-old questioning shit like that we think is common sense. It's like, wait, what's that? What's kissing? What's this?
Yeah, it's like one of the funny things I love about Fvlminatvs and Kamjin Krivshera's interactions after the after they crash land back on Earth is both of them. Yeah, Kamjin is just like, yeah, baby, we're gonna make culture later. It's like, that's how I refer to it. Okay, yeah. And he's like, they're repairing their ship and fixing it, and they're like, we're gonna make those humans regret teaching us culture. And so what's interesting is that's also like an admission of that, yeah, there are always going to be bad eggs. right? There are always going to be people who can't adjust. There are always going to be people who
can't deal with the times. Like you don't blame these people. It's just like they're too stubborn or too strong-willed, or like they just cannot survive. Like they cannot live in
their sense of purpose.
Exactly. Like these guys who are the bad eggs, like they want a war and fight, and they don't see any other way because they're unwilling to see any other way.
Yeah, unwilling, incapable, a mix of both, a little bit, but yeah.
So speaking of how the Zentradi are broken up into like two types depending on gender, should we talk about Mr. Maximilian, Mr. 7 daughters and 1 granddaughter, as of according to the Wikipedia?
Yeah. What was it? The Macross wiki. Yeah, he's got like a bunch of kids. What happened with him is, again, like there's so many pivotal moments in Macross that just really resonate, and Miria encountering Max is just one of those big stories where you have this hotshot Zentradi pilot, right? She's a female. She's with the female fleet. She's the ace pilot, but she's defeated by Max narrowly. And then she's like, I have to find this pilot. She's obsessed with him now. It's like, I have to find this pilot. I have to destroy it, right? So she goes after him. She has herself shrunken down, infiltrates the Macross, and then spends several episodes looking for him. And she finally finds him in a video game arcade, and he kicks her ass in the video arcade. And she's she is like beside herself with shame and grief. And he's like, yo, you're really hot. Can I get your number? She's like, I don't have one. He's like, well, can you meet me at the park like tomorrow night? He's like, and this guy is like, he is a Bishonen, and
but he's alpha as fuck.
Yeah, he is alpha as hell, and
he's like your Bishonen, like he's like your Bishonen nerd, like physicality wise, like he isn't that impressive, but like apparently he's a fucking ace fucking mech pilot. Apparently he's naturally talented, and personality wise, he's an alpha Chad as fuck.
I guess so. Because he goes, and there's nothing to suggest that he's not. It suggests that it doesn't suggest he's a playboy, but like when Hikaru shows up at when he first is given to Hikaru as a subordinate with Kakizaki.
Yeah, I like the both of them. We should just mention that the subordinates that Hikaru get, like, they play off each other so well, they feel like a real squad.
Yeah, Kakizaki is like really, he's a big dude who eats a lot, and he's that guy who talks a big game, but really actually kind of sucks.
That's fine. Listen, he's the guy he's gonna be the guy that when you need him the most, he's gonna pull through. Like every military squad has that one guy.
Pull through or get blown up, which is he pulls through. He damn near gets his ass shot down 5 times, and finally he doesn't get shot down, but he gets killed by a shockwave, and that actually rocks Hikaru pretty bad.
Okay,
but the
back to Maximilian, Chad.
Yeah, back to Maximilian. Yeah, Max. When he first shows up with Hikaru at Minmei's restaurant, right? Her the Nyan Nyan restaurant. They show up there, and all of a sudden, all the girls are like, "Whoa, he's cute," you know. So you know he's not a bad looking guy. Right?
Yeah, he is not. He is pretty good looking. Like I meant physicality wise. Like he's not like a physical fighter, that type of shit. Like physicality wise, not that impressive. But looks and intelligence, yeah, he's high up there.
Yeah, and the tensai keeps popping up whenever the word for genius. He's a tensai, and he's a genius at fighting.
Yeah, he's a genius at mech combat.
Mech combat, yeah, absolutely. And he's so he goes. But he meets Miria, and he's just like, not only is she like really good at the video game, right? Like she's also like really pretty, and he's like, man, this is the kind of girl I've been looking for my whole life. Yeah, and it's totally love it.
I always felt that like he's the type of guy, he's looking for a woman for a challenge. Like he just wants a woman that can challenge him on everything.
Yeah,
and he finds it.
He does. And so like and it's a shame because this is one of the worst animated episodes, and it's really dumb.
Yes, it
but
is.
He meets her in the park, and she's she tries to get into a knife fight with him, and he ends up disarming her,
and then they fuck,
and they fight. He disarms her, and she's like, kill me. I've been, you've defeated me twice, and now this is the third time, and I can't live with this. And he's like, baby, why don't you just marry me instead? Like,
yeah, and they make out in the park.
Yeah, and then like they get married, and it's one of those things where it's just like this is it. This is the big moment, because it's the first time a member of the Zentradi has married a human, and later they end up having a kid.
7 of them.
I love in the show they have one so far, but I love the one scene where like everybody's together, Max and Hikaru and Misa and Claudia and Miria, and they're like, can I hold the baby? And Miria's like, no, go make your own. It's like, I made this one.
I love that scene. It's great.
She's like, I made this one, you make your own.
She's like, fuck off,
Max
bitch.
Is like, dude. Max is just like, dude, no, we can just like she's just like so Zentradi about it. She's just like, and she's like, yo, she tells us like, oh, I like dying in battle gloriously with my husband is like the ideal end.
And I'm like, why can't I date this?
Yeah. Well, it is depressing. Like if you go and like look forward to like Macross 7, because they're separated and they're kind of in a rocky patch. One of those rocky
and then
patches.
There's the OVA episode, and they're going in for daughter number 8.
Wow, yeah, the OVA episode where they're like, the huge Meltrandi fleet attacks, and Basara is playing as rock and roll, but that's Macross 7. But it is nice to see.
They'll be like that video will be in a couple of months' time, I guarantee it.
I guess so. Yeah, we'll talk about that. But like, yeah, it is nice to see though that the flame is still there a little bit, at least. You do get the feeling that they separate, but they still care about each other.
Yeah, listen, once you go Zentradi, you can never go back, okay? Like, you can never go back to that romantic time where you're trying to kill each other in the park, man. Like, that was magic.
Well, we should probably talk about the animation. Considering that episode, we should probably talk about the animation.
It's terrible.
It's great, and then it's bad. And then it's great, and then it's bad. And it's like
have you seen the moments where her face, like, it looks like she's in a horror movie? It's like,
oh god, like
the scream.
Half the time, that's the thing is, half the time, you watch the first 4 to 6 episodes, and the animation is really good for the time, for 1982. It's really good. The Sakuga is on point, right? You've got, and then like they started running into problems and falling behind schedule, so they had to outsource. And man, can you tell when they were outsourcing, because shit is off model like crazy. And then the worst is when they were like I think it's episode 12 when they're trying to escape from the Zentradi ship. That, oh my god, there's I think it's both 11 and 12. There's sections of that are just keyframes.
Yeah. If I, like, in the thing on my hard drive where I had Macross, there was 2 versions of episode 11. Like, the version and then the one that originally broadcasted on TV. Like, very different.
Oh, God. I've only seen, like, I didn't know there was another version where they cleaned it up, man. But, like,
I've got the cleaned up version, but, like, I also had, like, the original TV broadcast, the one they used on TV in Japan. It was awful.
It's bad.
It's Transformers Season 1 bad, okay?
Oh, yeah, and that's the thing is you're gonna get some degree of whiplash going back and forth, because sometimes the animation is just awful, and it is a shame. When they were smart though, they made sure they animated the important scenes well, right? Like they animate Hikaru and the scene where the Zentradi are interrogating Hikaru and Misa and Kakizaki, and they animate the kiss. They animate the kiss and everything. That's all done well. It's like a lot of the rest of the episode is like just keyframes, and it's really bad. But there's, that's the problem, is they ran into issues. And by and large, the middle of the show is the worst. It's the beginning and the end of the show where things are actually pretty decent. But you can still see, like, near the end of the show, there's still problems popping up. Like, you'll see characters are off model every once in a while.
Yeah, like, I remember the scene where, like, they have that romantic, that romantic date in the park. Like, there's some parts where, like, her face Like her eyes are like crossed, like they're out of model, and she looks like something out of like The Scream, like the painting The Scream at times.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god, this looks hideous.
Yeah, and that's just that is damn, that does kill it. Like, it's just like, come on, man. And speaking of the animation, about 10 years ago, maybe not 10 years ago, maybe it was 8. It was right around, maybe it was more than that. It was like they were talking about like Macross's big anniversary, right? It was having like
yeah, I think I heard
25th anniversary, whatever.
Yeah, I think I heard rumblings of that a while back.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, like on YouTube, there appeared a shitload of music videos set to Min-May's songs. And it's like, oh my god. And there was a rumor going around like, yo, dude, they're going to reanimate Macross, and look at this. This is gorgeous. And then it turned out, no, this was just, this is shit for a pachinko machine. And it's,
and the
it's
Japanese
just
love
like,
their pachinko.
No, because it was such a, it really was a heartbreaker. Because this show, I mean, like, I know how they do remakes every once in a while, like they're doing a remake of Fruits Basket or whatever.
They're doing like a complete remake and retelling of Digimon Adventure. So
yeah, and it's like, I don't want a remake. I just want a reanimation. Leave all the dialogue, everything the same. Don't change any of that. Leave all the sound effects, everything. Just reanimate the entire show. If they would do that, it would be awesome. Just reanimate the entire Super Dimension Fortress Macross. It would be amazing.
Yeah,
because there are moments in the original where you can actually see this like massive attention to detail, massive amount of care put into the animation, and like you could tell, like those moments that's when Tatsunoko was bringing their A game, right? That's not when they were outsourcing something. They were bringing their A game. Like the scene that I talked about where Min-May is held in the mech's hand, and it's in the Gerwalk formation, is flying through the air, and the missiles come out and they shoot off the arm, and the arm starts to fall. There's a scene where you see the smoke swirl into the intake of the jet engine, and it's like that kind of scene or that kind of moment is like one of those moments where it's like you realize, oh, that's attention to detail. Like there's certain points where you can see the in the really well animated sections of like Max's dog fights, you can see where he ejects chaff to confuse enemy missiles.
Yeah, he also does flips and shit like that, and transforms into the air to distract his enemies.
Yeah,
like he does a lot of shit like that, and it's sort of like it's such a great attention to detail as well. And that's one of the things I appreciate about Macross is that they take detail. Like, not just in an animation, but how certain characters do shit, some of their actions. Like tactically and strategy-wise, like, a lot of the stuff they do makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's that attention to detail. Like, speaking of, like, animation now, I did watch, like, a couple of minutes of, like, the Do You Remember Love movie, and, it looks absolutely gorgeous. Like, if they could remake Macross like that, like, fucking A.
That was the thing, is Macross was surprisingly successful, right? Originally, they had only given it like they were only going to have 26 episodes. It ended up being 27, but it was originally going to just be 2 core. And then they got like the news that you guys are so successful, we're giving you another 10 episodes.
And they're like, fuck yeah.
So that's where you get like the episodes 28 and 30 through 36, and that a lot of people are like that's a kind of coded to the show, and a lot of people were like surprised, like when they hear it's like a lot of people don't like that part of the show. I'm like, what are you, nuts? This is exactly what I want, right? I want to know where actually no, I'm sorry, it was originally going to be 23 episodes, not 20.
You get your notes right from
46, but it was originally going to be only 23 episodes. But like it got that successful, they gave it another 13, and they're like, we can extend this. We can extend the story. We can tell more. And they did, like the whole sequence on them trying to rebuild Earth, and the whole love story between Hikaru and Misa getting together, and Hikaru dealing with Min-May and getting, in a lot of ways, getting closure on that gives closure to the audience, right? It does a lot to give closure to the audience, because a lot of these Japanese shows, you just, especially back in like the 80s and 90s,
they just ended.
It just ends abruptly. No denouement, right? They're just boom, ends.
Yeah, it's like it's like watching a film and then someone just put like an axe to the film reel and it just ends, like just there. That's where it ends.
Well,
no
as
epilogue.
soon as the conflict is resolved, like once the conflict, you see this a lot in European movies too, like especially French movies and stuff. As soon as the conflict is resolved, it's like boom, it's over.
Yep,
done.
No after story, no epilogue, and that's why I sort of like some mangakas now, where they'll like the main conflict is over and they'll do like an epilogue, like just to wrap it all up, like. This is what the characters are doing right now, and everything's fine. Like, you know, like
it's like in the Lord of the Rings. I want to know like how many kids Samwise has. Samwise has like more kids than Max. It's like, yo, all right, you know, he's making that shit work. But it's one of those things where you want to see them. You want to see a little bit of the happily ever after, right? You want to get a kind of glimpse of that happily ever after. You want to make sure that your characters that you're looking for or that you love and you care about are going to have are going to get the reward especially if they earned it. If you feel like they earned it, and like that you get a little bit of that in this. You do, because you finally see Hikaru like get over Minmay. You finally see him like and Misa like basically admit their feelings for each other, kind of. You finally get to see these things like kind of resolve. And that's really I think that's kind of important, right? You find out a little bit about.
Oh, there's the phone.
There's the phone. It's. I can't win for losing every time I'm recording something. The fucking phone. God damn.
Yeah, so like I was just like, oh man, this is going so well, and then the phone goes off. Oh, doesn't miss a trick.
Yeah, nah, the phone don't miss a trick. My brother must have got it. Anyway,
I am including the phone, by the way, because it becomes a part of this podcast we do together.
Oh yeah, no, don't worry. That should just be a Fvlminatvs feature. It's not it doesn't feature Fvlminatvs if the phone doesn't ring.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, in the end, like that's another thing too. It's just like fuck Shoji Kawamori, because at a convention one time, because at the end of Macross, they're
gonna go into a new ship and shit, and she's the captain, and you know Hikaru's gonna be with her, and Minmay.
Yeah, he's gonna be like, and Minmay. Yeah, she's gonna join the ship, and she's gonna be part of the colony, the new colony fleet. And the official canon is that it disappeared near the center of the galaxy. They lost contact with it somewhere near the center of the galaxy. It was never heard from again. And at a convention, somebody asked Shoji Kawamori, whatever happened? Did they live happily ever? The Mega Road, as it was called, or Mega Load, both meanings work, right? And that's why the Japanese used Mega Road or Mega Load for the second ship. When they lost contact with the Mega Road, right? Did they end up living happily ever after? And Shoji Kawamori, this motherfucker, said, "God, I hope so." And it's like, that's not an answer, you son of a bitch.
I just love it. He's like, "Oh, I hope so." Wait, didn't you make it? He's like,
yeah, exactly. He's like, that's your answer? No, bro, you could make these right now. You can say, yes, they lived happily ever after, and Hikaru and Misa had many, many children. And it's like, damn it, you son of a bitch, you just
You know, it could be that he's trying to do a Macross that talks about the ship and shit, and he wanted to be a troll.
They did have a daughter, Hikaru and Misa. As by the time, and this is one of those canon things. I think it's canon, but it is part of the lore that Hikaru and Misa did have a daughter at some point while either before the Mega Road launched or after. But they did get married. They did have a kid. So it's like, there you go. But yeah, Max and Miria, that's a different story. But yeah.
Oh, they fucked like rabbits. Holy shit! It's 7 children. Damn.
7. Well, yeah, man, dude. Zentradi women, apparently. No kidding. Zentradi women. But you know what? That's just something that's.
Listen, Lan. Like, he rocked her world and she rocked his.
Apparently.
Like, once you go Zentradi, you can never go back.
Once you get, I don't know what rhymes with Z. Zed, you guys would say Zed. Once you get the Zed, you better take it to bed.
Yeah, we say it like Zed. Zed.
Yeah.
Z.
We say Z in the US.
Yeah, Zed.
We got to be weird. We got to be different. Because even the Canadians say Zed. Yeah, we got to be different. We Americans. We got to be special.
Yes, the eternal
ed.
like we're like yes we are different.
We got to be special ed. There you go.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, man, it's
So Zentradi woman are superior than Earth woman. Changed my mind.
Misa Hayase. Dude,
Mind
she is
change.
best girl in this whole show. She is best girl. Because she comes off as like, she does. She kind of comes off at first as a super bitch. But then, like, what is it, episode 7, Bye Bye Mars? Where she's
crying and she sees like her old boyfriend's like shit, and I'm like, damn.
Yeah, you found out like, yeah. Oh God, when we talk about, I got to talk about how they introduce that and Do You Remember Love when we talk, because we really should do You Remember Love next.
We can do that. Like we can watch, like we can watch it together. Like do you wanna just like do like final thoughts, and then like you can think of more shit to add in like a couple of days later, and then like we could do like we can watch the movie together some other time, and then like record our impressions as like a follow up.
Yeah, we'll just make a follow up episode. But yeah, when like Do You Remember Love like really shows this. They really shows this really well. And like, but like, yeah, like you realize like, oh my God, this is why Misa's the way she is, right? She had this, the guy who she was in love with died, and she's not even sure he died. Like it was the circumstances where he could still be alive. And then when they get to Mars and they find that, and she finds his quarters and it's empty, and she just goes in there and she sits down and she's like, all right, fuck it. Like she's just kind of like, all right, fuck it. Like I'm okay dying here. Right? I can't. And then she's just like reliving the heartbreak all over again. Right? She's kind of just like reliving that heartbreak all over again. And you realize like, dude, she's this tough as nails bitch because of what happened to her. Right? You saw her like she's a young girl. She's in love. This guy is going to Mars. Right? And she says, I'll join the military. That way I can be with you, And she's just like got this huge crush on this guy. And then he dies. Or not even dies. Like we know he dies. But like there's always that slim sliver of hope. And you can see in it. And you see it in her. Like when they go to the
she's like,
the
oh,
Mars
he could
base.
be still alive. He could be there. No,
There's
he
a
ain't.
possibility.
It's abandoned.
Right? Nah, he's done. And then when she's like faced with that again, it's like she has to go through that heartbreak and loss all over again, because that's kind of like what that slim sliver of hope did, was just like, maybe just maybe, right? And that's the thing. Like I said, like Minmay is way more of a tragic character because
I view her more as unfortunate, but like we disagree. But
yeah, I see her as tragic. But I do at least see her as unfortunate. I go a little bit further than you, right? As I see her as unfortunate, but more so, where I see her as a tragic character. Misa, I see as, like I said, that character that she's the one. Remember when we were talking about Escaflowne and you're talking to, if you're watching it with your girl and she prefers Alan to Vaughn, right? You're just like, I don't know about this, but if she prefers Vaughn to Alan, you're like, all right, there's a good chance you're a keeper. The same ladies, if there's any ladies listening to this, the same goes for Macross. If your boy likes Minmay more than Misa at least after episode 7, right? After episode 7, if your boy doesn't start to shift more towards Misa, I say, yo, man, maybe this Misa chick has got, maybe there's more to her. If gradually he doesn't start to think that she's best girl, this
is our community service announcement for the probably like one woman who watches this entire YouTube channel. I'm not sure
exactly.
Yeah, our public service announcement.
How many subscribers do you have?
About 134 or something.
Statistically, there's at least one female watching this, and if you're watching this and your boy by the end, like let's go by the end of the series. If by the end of the series your boy prefers Minmay to Misa, you need to give him the boot. You need to give him the boot because Misa is best girl. Absolutely. Hell, man, when I was like second grade and I thought like Misa was best girl by the end of the show, right? It's just like, come on, man, come on, it's obvious. Right. They did come out with like a swimsuit model for her back in the 80s, which I would kill to get my hands on of Misa Hayase. You can find Minmay shit everywhere. Minmay is the big one, but like Misa's always kind of like something sort of passed over, and it's because of the symbol that Minmay became in the franchise, and that's the thing. But yeah,
it is what it is.
This is a great show, though. I mean, if you haven't, I know we spoiled a shitload. If you haven't seen this show, we spoiled a shitload. But like this show is better than Gundam.
People can know that there's going to be spoilers for these things. Like we don't give a fuck.
Yeah, maybe. But like, dude, this show is better than Gundam. Hands down, Macross is better than Gundam. Gundam is like war is bad.
Angry read comment noises in the distance.
Dude, Gundam is like war is bad, okay? Like, Macross is like about love. Like, dude, oh my god, man. Love, the idea of protection, like that pops up too. That's a theme that pops up in lots of Japanese works. The concept of like protecting, right? I'm going to protect something, or I'm going to protect someone. Protection and the act of protecting is such an important masculine trait in at least otaku culture.
Hey, didn't we see something like that similar in like Rurouni Kenshin's like Trusted Betrayal when we watched that movie together? Like, he's talking to the chick and he says like, "I will protect you."
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, dude, like the idea of protecting is so important, and that's why Hikaru joins the military. He joins to protect the things he loves. What does Roy say, like, he's in the military to do after a while? Is like he's in it, he's in it to protect the things he loves, including Claudia. And it's like it's like, man, dude, it's so so permeates so many things, man. It's like this show, like Gundam is way more straightforward in its themes than Macross. Macross is way more complex. You gotta get, and I would tell anybody is like, oh, I don't know, man. The animation, like, dude, you gotta get past it. You gotta get past it. His story is frigging worth it.
But how am I supposed to enjoy something when the animation is shit? I'm a Sakuga fag. Like I'm a hyper. I've got a big brain, and I cannot get stories and characters unless the animation is great.
Yeah, you're the kind of person that really gets what the hell is it called? Pickle Rick show, Rick and Morty. There you go. Oh yeah, I really understand Rick and Morty. Okay, yeah, no problem.
He turned himself into a pickle. It's the most funny thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, but yeah, Macross is just so good, dude. And like, Gundam is a bigger franchise. It is, but like Macross, I'm a Macross fan. It's better, and it's not just because I grew up as a kid watching Robotech, right? It's actually the first thing I watched, and we're gonna talk about it, later. But the first thing that I watched that was not Robotech, that was Macross Japan, was actually Macross Do You Remember Love? Because believe it or not, through fan subbing, it was easier to get your hands on.
Yeah, I got an uncensored fan sub copy. Don't worry.
Yeah, I got a fan sub copy of it too. I got a bootleg fan sub copy on DVD, but
I sailed the 7 seas to get my copy, so a hug.
Well, I got my copy a little bit before the fan subbing industry stopped distributing physical media,
and died.
Dude, Macross is just, and Macross Do You Remember Love is just, it's Macross jammed down into 2 hours, which means it is really emotional. I don't suggest you watch it first. I suggest you watch Macross, the series, first. And like I said, it's on, if you live in the United States, at least. I believe, Canada gets this as well, but I could be wrong. But if you live in the United States, at least, and you've got Amazon Prime or whatever, you can watch the original Super Dimension Fortress Macross. Not Robotech, but the actual Macross show. And it is worth it. It is such a good show. I'm at this point, I'm like shilling it. We should get paid for this. It's one of my favorite anime, period. It's up there, dude.
Yeah,
I give this a 9 out of 10.
It's a staple of the 80s. Like, Macross is one of those shows that is a staple of the 80s, and everyone should watch it.
Yeah. And I prefer it to Gundam. I prefer the Macross universe to Gundam. It's more complex. It really is. Gundam is pretty straightforward. It's war is bad, okay, right? Macross, it's not just that. Like, the fact that the peacenik in the show actually turns out to be a jerk and doesn't understand what the military is doing. I mean, these people are fighting an existential war for survival. As soon as they figure out that soft power could could be the deciding factor in their survival, they employ it, right? Like that's actually one of the first things that
so much
they
for
do.
a pacifist. He's a fucking martial artist. Like martial arts. What do you think martial means in that context?
Judo is a martial art, but judo is all falls and throws, and it's not. It's meant for self-defense, but not attack.
But he does Shaolin Kung Fu or some shit.
Yeah, but most of it is like if you watch the scenes where they fight, like in real life, not when he's in the movie. If you watch most of the scenes where they fight, he like most of it is dodging and getting the other guys to hit themselves or hit each other or whatever.
That's true. But you know, he still has like combat abilities. Like if he was a true like pacifist, he wouldn't have. But you know, he's like, oh, war is bad, okay, and yet like people are dying in the droves and shit.
I don't entirely agree with you, but I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Kai-Fun, he's a dick. But yeah, it's God, dude, it is.
He's like, I'm better than you. I'm a pacifist, and I know Shaolin Kung Fu.
Yeah,
it's like, yeah.
I
wonder if that Shaolin Kung Fu can make you immune to bullets, my dude.
This show is so great, dude. I mean, it's and like going back to some of the things we were talking about. Like this is what I mean when I say like anime in the 80s, otaku culture in the 80s, and what was becoming otaku culture. This show really did kind of inspire a lot of otaku culture. And
yeah, it very much like helps the groundwork of it.
Yeah, it really helps lay the groundwork. Like this in Gundam, when it comes to like a lot of early 80s science fiction, this in Gundam. And, you know, I do prefer this to Gundam, but like this show is actually like way more hopeful. It's way more positive. Right, it's way more uplifting than Gundam, I guess I could say. Because it's like I said, it's like Star Trek. It posits this future where we can find solutions to our problems that don't necessarily involve killing each other. You know, and like yes, at the very end, like the last episode of the whole series, well, the bad guy is one of those people that you can't freaking reason with.
Yeah,
and it deals with that.
It's like
right?
that. It's like that quote from Dragon Ball Z. You know, when like Android 16 dies, and he's quoting to Gohan, and he says to him like, you know, there are some people that words alone will not reach, and Cell is one of those people. You have to like don't hold back, like because violence is the only way that you're gonna reach this guy. Because he ain't there to fucking talk. Like Cell and Dragon Ball Z, like he ain't there to talk.
Well, they really established Kamjin Kravshera's personality as being that chaotic, I just want to see the world burn kind of character, right? You know, from the very moment he's introduced in episode 7, the Mars episode, where Britai calls for reinforcements and his division shows up and they ram into a bunch of ships, and
he's like, fuck me,
and he's like, hi, haha, you know, I'm here to fuck everybody up, and like he's completely driven by his impulse for destruction, right? Like, once he's under Laplamus's command, he's doing nothing but giving her a hard time. He's like, the Macross is here. We're here. Let's attack. Boom. And it's like, she's like, stop attacking. Like 2 or 3 times in the show, she has to intervene and stop him from attacking because that's not what the plan is. And he just exists to destroy shit, right? He was one of those guys who was never going to be civilized.
Never.
He was one of those guys who liked destruction. He reveled in it. He enjoyed it. It gave, you know, and that's the thing is, again,
he is a true blue warrior. Like he is the wolf-dyed warrior. Like he will not quit until he dies. Basically, like that's the type of person he is. He is destruction. Yeah. He is death unbound. Like that is the type of person he is, and he will never change.
And he doesn't want to.
Exactly.
He is who he is. What you see is what you get. Anyway, if I think about it, I could probably think of more to say about Macross.
Well, let's just stop for now because this is the format we have.
Yeah, but you know, aside from that, you should watch. You know, you should definitely watch this show. It's great. If you haven't watched it yet, rewatch it. This is just
watch it.
I love the characters. I love it. I love everything about it. It's probably one of my favorite anime of all time.